Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video, I wanted to go over something that is some of the staple shots that we do, and those are the super wide environmental portraits. I want to go over a few tips on how we achieve them, as well as some things that you have to be careful with when you shoot with wide angle lenses. So primarily wide angle lenses are used for landscapes. So a lot of the times you take them because you want to get as much as you want in the frame, and usually that's when you're out and you're shooting, let's say, the Grand Canyon, a beach shot, something like that. So I always liked, when I started with photography, I always liked getting a lot of the scene in my photo, but I wanted some type of way to include my couple or my subject in it. I grew up in New York, so a lot of the times it was New York City. I wanted to get the landscape in the back, but for me, landscapes kind of bore me. I wanted to incorporate people in it because you can't really talk to a scene, but you can talk to a person, and I do enjoy yapping. So I needed to find a way where I could shoot with a wide angle lens, include a lot of the landscape, but also have people in the shot, because people to me just add more to a story, add more to a scene. Typically when you think of shooting portraits, you think of an 85mm, a 70-200, that kind of lens, in order to get more compression in the background, something that's going to be a little bit more your typical portraits. However, the style that I want to go over today is the environmental portraits. If you scroll through our Instagram, you see that a lot of the photos that we post are those type of photos. The reason for that is that I actually just explained to a potential bride this morning. I was telling her how if we post all the normal photos, the normal crops, the normal natural light stuff, in my opinion, if Uncle Bob or somebody else could do those photos, there would be no reason to hire our studio. So I usually post more the dramatic wide shots, something that kind of draws your eye in a slightly different way. Some people love it. Some people are not really a fan. They want more of the natural look. From what I've learned, the people that love it will go to bat for you. They're going to recommend you and all that. The people that don't love it and aren't really for it, they're probably not going to hire you anyway. So stay true to what you enjoy and keep at it, because I've been at it for 13 years and it's going okay. So the first tip I would say when you're using a wide angle lens for an environmental portrait is understand your lens. So understand that if you put the couple or if you put the subject in the corner, it's going to stretch them out. So try to avoid doing that. Every once in a while, I may do that, but I will be really, really far away. This is something that we went over yesterday when we were doing a little training with a couple of people, is if you are using that type of lens for that type of look, stand, I would say, at least 10 to 12 feet back, so that way it's not stretching them out or making them look super, super short. If you stand really close with a wide angle lens, it's gonna make people look really short. So stay back a little bit, so that way the proportions get a little bit back to normal. I tend to put my composition where I put the subject in the bottom third, so that way it will be a little bit more in proportion, especially if I'm a little bit further away from them. And if it makes their legs look a little bit longer, I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world. Now, going off of that note, I wouldn't do a vertical shot with a super wide angle lens. I've done it here and there, but usually 9 times out of 10, I try to avoid it just because it will stretch them out like hell. Or you end up putting them in the dead center of the frame. And to me, that just looks boring because a lot of the time on the floor, there's not really that much. A few successful times that I've done it, I feel like it's been where we want to emphasize the dress and we want to make the train look really, really big. In those situations, we've gotten a really good response on that. So that would be one of the exceptions, one of the times where I would use a super wide angle in vertical form. If you guys have any other examples, I mean, I'd love to see them, because that's kind of, I was racking my brain earlier trying to figure out, all right, when is it successful when it's a vertical composition? That's pretty much the only thing I can think of. So I'm all ears if you guys have any other successful attempts. Another tip that I would give you guys, if you're doing a super wide angle environmental portrait, is use strobes. A lot of the times when we use strobes, the reason we use it is we want to underexpose the background, make it look nice and dark behind them, and then hit them with a little bit of flash, so that way it brings them out of the scene. And what's the reason for that? Because your brain will automatically search for the brightest portion of the frame. So no matter how wide the shot is, if the couple is brighter than the rest of the frame, your eye is automatically going to get drawn towards that portion of the frame. If you're going to do a super wide angle environmental portrait, I would try to incorporate a little bit of off-camera lighting in order to bring your eye into what you want the viewer to see. Remember that you're in charge and you have to kind of guide your viewer to what you want them to see. So if there's not a clear subject in your frame, try to reevaluate exactly what you can do to make that more clear. Here's a little side tip. One thing that I tell any shooter that I teach or anything like that is, when you take a photo and you're out shooting and you're shooting a couple, you're shooting a portrait, you're shooting whatever you're shooting, before you even show it to the client, look at the photo and critique it. The best way to do that is to take yourself away from the equation. So if I'm looking at a photo in the back of my camera, I don't look at it as my photo and I go, oh, this is great. I look at it as, okay, if one of my shooters was showing me this photo, what would I critique? And then I critique the photo and then I apply it since I'm there anyway. So try to take yourself away from the situation, analyze it as if it was somebody else's photo, and then apply whatever critique you would have given. The last tip, just because I want to make this short and sweet, is remember, this is something actually I did learn in college, which this professor told me. She said, what you leave in the frame and what you crop out of the frame is just as important. So scan your photo. This is going off the previous tip. Scan your photo and see, okay, why did I leave that little thing in the corner? Is that necessary? And if it's not adding to the photo, crop it in. Or if you see something that's in the corner that will add to the story overall, include that. Make sure whatever you include or whatever you take out, you're conscious of why it's there. If there's a power line in the background and we ask you, why is a power line in the background? And you go, oh, I didn't see it. That's when you need to start analyzing your photos a little bit more. So whatever's in your frame, make sure that you know why it's in the frame. Anyway, that's it for today. I wanted to just make a quick video on wide angle shots. I was gonna make a video comparing telephoto versus wide angle, and I still might, because I do have some footage. Me and Sergio went out to the desert last week to shoot at the sand dunes, and I might use some of that footage. But anyway, that's it for today. If you guys have any questions, any comments, go ahead and leave them below. I respond to every single comment that you guys leave, and any feedback, I'm always open to it. I'm still learning too. I'll see you guys on the next one.